The kitchen was dead quiet, and the only thing you could hear was the steady tick-tock of the clock on the wall. My wife was standing over by the counter with her arms pulled in tight, staring down at her phone screen. I could see the glow from another text message her ex had just sent her. I was just sitting there at the table, letting my coffee get cold while I pretended to read a newspaper I'd actually stopped looking at 5 minutes ago. "Did you even hear a word I said?" She snapped, and her voice was a lot sharper than she probably meant it to be, cutting right through the silence. I finally looked up at her, keeping my face totally blank so she couldn't read me. "Yeah, I heard you," I told her flatly. "And?" she asked, shifting her weight around like she was bracing for something. I knew exactly what she wanted. She was waiting for me to start begging, get angry, or try to talk her out of it. But I didn't give her the satisfaction. I just took my time folding that newspaper up real neat and careful. "So, you're telling me you want to go hit the clubs with your old boyfriend?" I said, keeping my voice as calm as if I was just double-checking a grocery list. She looked at me and said, "Yes, Marcus reached out. She told me he was only in town for the weekend and that a whole group of their college buddies were planning to meet up at Velvet on Friday night." She was staring at my face, just waiting for me to crack or show some kind of emotion, but I didn't give her a thing. "I haven't seen any of those guys in years," she added. All I said back was, "Okay." That one word just kind of hung there between us like something that didn't belong. She actually blinked, looking a bit confused. "Okay? That's all you've got to say?" I took a slow sip of my coffee, made a face because it was lukewarm and gross, and put the cup back down. "What else do you want from me? You're telling me you're heading out with your ex-boyfriend, and you're mad because I said okay?" Her voice was getting louder now, and I could tell she was getting frustrated. This definitely wasn't going the way she'd rehearsed it in her head. See, she wanted me to care. She wanted me to put up a fight or show her that I was hurt. But I just looked at her and said, "You're a grown woman. You can do whatever you want." I kept my tone steady, almost like I was detached from the whole thing. She stepped closer to the table, trying to pressure me. "Most husbands would have a massive problem with this," she pushed. I just looked her in the eye and said, "Well, I'm not most husbands." I stood up, grabbed my dirty plate and coffee mug, and started heading for the sink. "Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?" I asked. I could tell she was starting to panic a little. "Are you seriously telling me you're fine with this? You don't even care why I'm going?" I stopped at the sink with my back turned to her. For a second, she probably thought she finally got under my skin. But when I turned around, I looked straight at her with a look so clear it actually made her look away. "I figured if you wanted me to know something, you would have told me," I said. "It's pretty obvious you're looking for a reaction here, but I'm not playing along," I continued. "If you want to go, then go. If you're doing this to make me jealous or to test me, well, that's on you. But I'm not participating in some mind game." She got real defensive real fast. "This isn't a game. My friends invited me, and Marcus happens to be one of them. Why are you making this a big deal?" "I'm not making it anything," I replied. "You're the one who led the conversation by saying you were going out with your ex instead of just saying you were seeing old friends. You turned this into a challenge." I dried my hands off with a towel, taking my time with it. "So, I'm just giving you an answer. Go ahead. I'm not stopping you." I could see it in her eyes. The rug was being pulled out from under her. This wasn't the script she had written. I was supposed to be miserable, reminding her about our marriage and fighting to keep her home. Instead, I acted like I couldn't care less. "Fine," she said, grabbing her phone off the counter. "I'll go then." Then she threw out the big one. "And if you have a problem with it, maybe we should just call it quits on the whole marriage." I could tell she regretted saying it the moment the words hit the air, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. She was desperate to break through my calm exterior. I looked at her for a long beat, and for a split second something probably flickered in my eyes. Maybe hurt, maybe just giving up, but I hit it before she could catch it. "Okay," I said quietly. There was that word again. Simple and final. She waited for me to say something else, to take it back or show my cards. But I didn't. I just walked right past her toward my home office, leaving her standing there in the kitchen with that empty threat just hanging over her head. As I walked away, I knew she was staring at my back with a pit growing in her stomach. Things weren't going according to her plan at all. Friday came around a lot faster than she expected, I bet. The whole week had been this weird mix of acting like everything was normal when it clearly wasn't. I just kept my head down, did my work, cooked dinner, and asked her about her day like that blow-up in the kitchen never happened. I never brought up her Friday night plans. I didn't ask what she was doing or who she was seeing. I didn't give her a single sign that I cared one way or the other, and I could tell it was driving her absolutely nuts. By Thursday night, she tried to bring it up casually while we were sitting in front of the TV. So, about tomorrow night. She started. "You're heading out with your friends," I said, finishing her sentence without even looking away from the screen. "I remember. What time do you think you'll be back?" She mumbled that she didn't know, probably late. "Midnight? 1?" I asked. I knew she was watching me, looking for a clenched jaw or some tension in my eyes, but I gave her nothing. "Okay, I'll make sure the porch light is on for you." That was the end of it. No questions about Marcus. No "text me when you get there." No passive-aggressive remarks. Just total, bland acceptance, which I knew was scaring her more than a shouting match would have. By Friday evening, she was in front of the closet trying on one dress after another. The black one was too modest, the red one felt like she was trying too hard, and the blue one, well, she couldn't even figure out what was wrong with that one. "That one looks great on you," I said from the doorway. She actually jumped a little, clutching the blue dress to her chest. I was just leaning there in my jeans and a sweater, looking completely relaxed. "Thanks," she muttered, turning back to the mirror. "What are your plans for tonight?" she asked. "Nowhere, really," I told her. "I'll probably just hang out here, read, or maybe catch that documentary I've been meaning to watch." I knew she wanted me to say I was going out too, just so she'd feel less guilty about the pit in her stomach. But instead, I was perfectly happy staying home while she went dancing with her ex. "You could come with us," she said, though I could tell she immediately wished she hadn't. That would have ruined her whole test. I just smiled, though I didn't let it reach my eyes. "I don't think that's really what you want," I said. "Besides, you should go have a good time with your old crew. You've mentioned how much you miss that social circle." She looked confused, like she didn't remember ever saying that. Maybe she had months ago. "Right?" she said, zipping up the blue dress. "Well, I guess I better finish getting ready." I told her she looked beautiful, short and sweet, and then I headed downstairs. "I'll be in the living room if you need anything." While she was upstairs doing her makeup, I knew her phone was blowing up with messages. Marcus had sent a selfie from his hotel, looking exactly the same as always, cocky and smiling. All her other friends were hyped for the reunion. She should have been excited, but I could tell she felt like she was just putting on a show, even if she didn't know who she was performing for. By 9 o'clock, she was all set. Hair done, makeup perfect, dress fitting her just right. I heard her heels clicking on the hardwood as she came downstairs. I was sitting in the living room with a book, and when she walked in, I looked up. For just a tiny fraction of a second, I let a flash of pain show on my face, or maybe it was just the light hitting me wrong. I put the book down and stood up to face her. "You look stunning," I said, and I meant it. She just muttered a quick thanks while she kept messing with her clutch bag, looking all fidgety. "You're really sure you're fine with this?" she asked. It was her last-ditch effort. One final chance for me to snap, tell her no, and beg her to stay home. She was practically starving for me to give her the reaction she'd been hunting for all week. But I didn't budge. "I told you how I felt on Monday," I said, keeping my voice soft but steady. "You're free to make your own calls. I'm not about to control you or play games to keep you here. Go have a good time. Just be safe." She just nodded, and I could tell there was this weird, hollow feeling hitting her right then. This was exactly what she'd been asking for, right? No jealousy, no rules, just total freedom. So why did she look like someone had just told her the worst news of her life? "I'll see you later then," she said, heading for the door. "Hey!" I called out. She turned back fast, and I saw a spark of hope in her eyes, like she thought I was finally going to crack. "Make sure you drink some water between those drinks," I told her. "And text me if you need someone to come pick you up." It was just practical stuff, which I could tell was both a relief and a total letdown for her. She forced a smile, said she would, and shut the door. She didn't look back as she walked to her car, but if she had, she would have seen me standing there at the window, just watching her go with a feeling of quiet resignation that probably would have stopped her dead in her tracks. Valet was pounding with bass before she even got through the door. The line was wrapped around the block, but Marcus had already messaged her saying they had a VIP spot waiting. She saw him right away at the front, talking to the bouncer, looking every bit the high-rolling consultant he'd turned into. "There she is," he shouted, his face lighting up when he saw her. He gave her a hug that went on a second too long for comfort. "You look incredible," he told her. "Marriage clearly suits you." She hugged him back, noticing the fancy cologne, the expensive watch, and that "I've made it" confidence. "You look good too," she said. "I guess that consulting life is treating you right." He just laughed it off, saying he couldn't complain, and led her inside. The VIP section was one of those spots overlooking the dance floor, roped off so everyone else knew they weren't invited. She started recognizing people immediately, college friends she hadn't seen in 5 years. People who knew her before she was a wife, back when her life wasn't just a quiet suburban routine. At first, it was exactly what she wanted. They were laughing, the champagne was flowing, and she felt like her younger self again. No responsibilities, just fun. Marcus stayed right by her side, keeping her glass full and letting his hand brush her shoulder or back while they talked. She noticed it, but she didn't stop him, ignoring the little warning bells going off in her head. "Remember when we crashed that faculty mixer?" Marcus leaned in real close so she could hear him over the music, his breath warm against her ear. She laughed, remembering how he'd convinced everyone he was a professor from Cambridge. "You played along perfectly," he said, looking her in the eyes a bit too long. "We always made a great team." That comment just sat there, heavy with all the things he wasn't saying. She took another gulp of champagne, realizing she'd completely lost track of how much she'd had to drink. By 11, half the group was out on the floor. Marcus had been all over her all night, but now she noticed him checking his phone every couple of minutes, looking distracted. When the next round of drinks came, he didn't even touch his. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, I actually have to head out soon," he said, looking almost embarrassed. "Early flight tomorrow, and I'm more tired than I thought. Guess I'm getting old." She blinked, totally caught off guard by how disappointed she felt. "Oh, I thought you were here all weekend." He just shrugged and said plans changed because of a work emergency. He was already waving for the check, his mind clearly somewhere else. "But hey, it was great seeing you. Let's do this again." Just like that, it was over. Within 15 minutes, he'd paid his tab, said his goodbyes, and walked out without even looking back. A bunch of other friends followed him, making excuses about babysitters or getting up early. Suddenly, she was standing in that VIP booth alone. The music was way too loud, and the people left were just strangers she didn't even like. One guy she barely remembered the name of tried to slide up next to her with a creepy smile. "Looks like it's just us," he said, way too close for comfort. "I should probably get going," she blurted out, already pulling out her phone for an Uber. The ride home felt like it took years. She stared out the window at the streetlights, her buzz turning into a nasty headache and a deep sense of dread. What was she even trying to prove? Marcus didn't care about her. He just wanted a little trip down memory lane. The whole big reunion was a bust. And for that, she'd basically threatened her husband, the man who just looked at her and said, "Okay." That word started ringing in her head now, and it sounded different. It wasn't that I didn't care. It was that I'd given up. It wasn't permission. It was a release. When the Uber turned onto our street, she knew something was wrong. The porch light was off. The house was pitch black. And my car wasn't in the driveway. "This is fine, thanks," she told the driver, her voice sounding like it was coming from miles away. She walked up to the door, her heels clicking loudly in the quiet night, her heart hammering against her ribs. The door was unlocked. Inside, the silence felt heavy, like the house was mourning. She flipped on the kitchen light and just froze. There it was on the table. My wedding ring, sitting right on top of a folded piece of paper. My keys were right next to it. It hit her like a punch to the gut, knocking the wind right out of her. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely unfold the note. My handwriting, which was usually neat and controlled, covered half the page. You said if I had a problem with you going out tonight, we could end this. Well, I don't have a problem with you seeing friends. But I do have a problem with you playing games and calling it honesty. I have a problem with being tested when I should be trusted. I'm tired of being treated like a hurdle you have to jump over instead of a partner you're building a life with. When you told me you were hitting the clubs with your ex, you weren't asking if it was okay. You were baiting me. You wanted me to get jealous and controlling just so you'd feel wanted. But that's not love. That's just being insecure. I've spent 3 years trying to be enough for you, wondering why I can't seem to fill whatever hole is inside you. I said, okay, because I meant it. Okay, go ahead. Okay, I'm not going to be your warden. And okay, I finally get that you're looking for something I clearly can't give you. So, I'm giving you what you asked for. We're done. I'm staying at my brother's. My lawyer will reach out next week. You can keep the house. I just want this over with as quickly as possible. I really hope you found what you were looking for tonight. I'm sorry I wasn't enough. There was no signature. Just those words, each one feeling like a lead weight in her chest. She read it over and over, the paper rattling in her grip. The whole kitchen started to spin, the champagne and the shock making her head swim. This wasn't how the story was supposed to end. I was supposed to be there when she got home. In her head, she'd pictured me sitting up, waiting to ask how it went with that same, I don't care attitude I'd had all week. She'd planned on being vague and difficult, maybe mentioning how Marcus had to leave early just to let me read between the lines that the night was a total bust. She figured I'd feel relieved, like I'd won some silent battle of patience, and things would just go back to the way they were. She never saw this coming. Before she even realized what she was doing, she was hitting my number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then she got my voicemail. My voice, calm and steady as ever, telling her to leave a message. Please pick up, she whispered after the beep, her voice sounding like it was about to snap. Please. I'm home. I saw the note. This isn't what I wanted. Please just call me back. She hung up and tried again immediately. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. You could hear the panic starting to choke her. She switched to texting. I'm so sorry. Please come home. We have to talk about this. The status said delivered, but it stayed unread. She sent another one. You can't just walk out like this. We need to talk like adults. Still just delivered. No read. She ended up collapsing into that same kitchen chair where I'd sat on Monday morning when this whole mess started. It had only been 5 days, but it felt like a whole lifetime had been squeezed into the space between that morning coffee and this midnight nightmare. Her mind started racing through the last few years, not just the last week. She started wondering when she'd gotten so restless. When did being happy start feeling like she was just stuck? I'd been the steady one. I'd been reliable. I'd been right there for her through every career move, every hobby, and every friend. I'd put up with her moods and stayed kind even when she was making it impossible to be. And how did she pay me back? By cooking up drama, chasing attention from an ex, and testing me like I was some kind of lab rat just to see if I'd fight for her. Those words from my note were stuck in her head. I've spent 3 years trying to be enough for you. 3 years. Our whole marriage. Had I really been feeling like a failure that entire time? How had she missed it? Or maybe she did see it and just didn't care because she was too wrapped up in her own head. She looked around the kitchen. At the coffee maker I'd cleaned before I left, the towel I'd folded just right, the grocery list on the fridge where I'd written down things she liked. Evidence that I cared was everywhere, and she'd been too blind to see it. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. Her heart nearly jumped out of her chest, but it was just the group chat. Someone had posted photos from the club. She saw herself in the background of one. Marcus's hand was on her back, and she was laughing with her head thrown back. They looked intimate. It made her stomach turn. Did I see these? Was that the final straw? She called my brother. It rang 4 times before he picked up, sounding tired and annoyed. Do you know what time it is? Is he there? She blurted out, skipping the small talk. Please, I need to speak to him. There was a long silence on the other end. He told me not to let you talk to him tonight. Said you'd probably call. Please, it's a misunderstanding. I didn't mean. He was pretty clear about what went down. My brother cut her off. Look, I don't want to be in the middle, but my brother showed up at my door at 10 at night with a suitcase and his wedding ring in his pocket. Whatever you didn't mean, the damage is already done. I need to explain, she pleaded, not even caring how desperate she sounded. 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. My brother sighed. He's out. He actually took something to help him sleep. First time I've ever seen him take anything stronger than an aspirin. He was a wreck. The image of me, the guy who was always composed, being so torn up that I needed meds to sleep hit her like a physical slap in the face. I'll come over. I'll wait in the car. I don't care how long it takes. That's a bad move, he told her. He was clear about needing space. If you show up, I'll have to ask you to leave, and that's not going to help your case. His voice softened just a little. Look, give him a few days. Let him process things. Then maybe you two can talk like rational people. I don't have a few days. He left his ring. He said a lawyer is calling me. He's throwing our marriage away over a stupid. She stopped herself. Was it really just a stupid misunderstanding? She couldn't even finish the sentence. Because to me, it wasn't stupid. It was the end of the line after years of feeling like he wasn't enough. Get some sleep, my brother said. Things might look different when the sun comes up. Then the line went dead. She sat at that table as the hours ticked by. She read that note 100 times, finding new layers of pain she'd been too self-absorbed to notice before. She went through old photos, the wedding, vacations, just hanging out. In every one, I was looking at her with total affection. And her? She looked distracted, or like she was just going through the motions. At 4 in the morning, she finally dragged herself upstairs. My side of the closet was a ghost town. I'd taken the essentials, clothes, toothbrush, the basics of a life I was carefully pulling out of ours. She collapsed on the bed and cried until there was nothing left. She woke up to a brutal headache and bright sunlight. No messages from me, but 17 from the group chat and 3 from Marcus. Marcus's texts made her feel sick. Great seeing you. Sorry I had to bail. Then we should do dinner next time I'm around. And finally, just the two of us. Like old times. Old times. She'd been chasing ghosts and cheap validation, and she'd nuked something real and good to do it. Saturday was a total fog. She called me every few hours, got the voicemail every time. She sent texts that stayed unread. On Sunday, she finally got a response, but not a text. It was an email from an address she didn't know. The subject line said, regarding dissolution of marriage. Her hands were shaking as she opened it. It was a lawyer's letter, cold, professional, and straight to the point about an uncontested divorce. I was making it easy for her, even now. No fighting over the house. No drama. Just a clean exit from a marriage I'd been drowning in while she was busy testing the water. Monday, she called out of work. She couldn't deal with people. She sat at the table with my note and tried to write back. I'm sorry felt like a joke. I didn't mean it was a lie. Part of her had meant it. She'd wanted to poke the bear just to feel something. She thought about what I wrote. I hope you found whatever you were looking for. What was she looking for? Excitement? Proof she was still it? She'd looked for it in all the wrong places. The guy who actually fought for her every single day for 3 years had been standing right there, and she'd mistaken his peace for boredom and his trust for not caring. By Tuesday, she'd finished a letter. Not an email, but a real handwritten letter. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I deserve to explain myself. But you need to know that you were always enough. More than enough. The problem was me. I mistook stability for boredom and peace for apathy. You said you spent 3 years trying to be enough for me. I spent 3 years being too blind to see I already had everything. I'm sorry I tested you instead of trusting you. I'm sorry I broke things because I didn't know how to value them. I don't know if we can fix this. But if you're willing, I'd like to try. I want to be a real partner, not a critic. I love you. I should have said it more. I'm sorry I'm saying it too late. She mailed it on Wednesday. Then she just had to wait. A week went by. My lawyer sent more papers, but she couldn't bring herself to sign them. Finally, 2 weeks after that Friday night, her phone rang. It was me. "Hello?" she said, her voice cracking. "I got your letter," I told her. I sounded exhausted. "And?" There was a long pause. "And I think we should talk. In person. There's a coffee shop on Oak Street. Thursday at 2. "Yes, I'll be there." "This doesn't mean I'm coming back," I said quickly. "It just means I'm willing to listen." "I understand." "Okay." There was that word again. But this time it didn't sound like I was giving up. It sounded like a door being left slightly cracked. On Thursday, she was there early. When I walked in, I looked older. The last 2 weeks had put some new lines around my eyes. But I showed up. I sat down. And I listened. It was slow, and it was painful, but we finally started being honest about what was broken. There were no promises of a happy ending right then and there. Just two people trying to see if they could rebuild something out of the wreckage. The road back was going to be a long one, but for the first time in a long time, we were at least looking in the same direction.